Hey everyone, it is Dani and welcome to this update video. I hope that you guys are doing really great, and we're going to be taking a look at what is happening across the Caribbean and surrounding areas, and we'll also be talking about the possibility of development in the tropical Atlantic as we're going to be heading into next week. And so before I go into details, please do subscribe if you haven't yet done so, and tap the bell so that you never miss an important update. It is a seemingly regular day, and you're going about your business, whether it be going shopping, going to work, spending time with your family, or even just laying around in your bedroom or on your couch. But then you feel that little shaking that gradually intensifies, and that is when you register that it is an earthquake. So you go to seek some sort of cover in order to protect yourself from any potential injuries. And so guys, in this video I will be talking about earthquakes and if the weather can actually impact earthquakes, or if earthquakes can impact the weather. Alright guys, and so to see the full video on whether this is true or not, you can go ahead and click the link in the comments. And so now let's get straight into what is happening across the tropics. So as we return to this infrared imagery of the Atlantic basin, we can see that there's lots of activity noted across some areas. So that activity there, that thunderstorm activity, is in association with Invest 94L, which has a medium chance of development and could possibly intensify into our next tropical cyclone. And we see some activity along the intertropical convergence zone also across parts of Central America and in some spots in the Caribbean. And so let's go ahead and start out with 94L. So we can see that as of the 2 a.m. update, it is given a 50% chance to develop. So it has limited time to get itself together out there, because as we approach the weekend and as it makes its way into cooler waters, that chance of any further intensification or development is going to gradually diminish, because tropical cyclones need warmth and moisture. And so with that being cut off from the system, it is unlikely that there will be any significant intensification. So as we take a look at what the models are expecting in terms of the intensity, that shaded green area represents tropical storm force winds. So you can see here that majority of the available models are expecting that this will eventually strengthen into a tropical storm, and most of them are not expecting it to become anything strong because it is not a highly favorable environment for intensification. And so now let's go ahead and take a look at what is happening across the Caribbean and the surrounding areas. And so we want to focus on the east first, and so we are seeing that there is still some activity in association with that tropical wave, and it's now entered the region with its axis in the vicinity of the Lesser Antilles. And so as I said, there is some thunderstorm activity still in association with it, but a lot of that has dissipated thanks to the intrusion of all that dry air in association with the Saharan air layer. So that has helped all this activity to weaken, and as such a whole lot of rainfall isn't expected for the Lesser Antilles, but most of that is going to be in the eastern Caribbean Sea, where nowhere is really being impacted. But as of right now, there is some cloud cover across most of the Leeward Islands, going from Anguilla southward to around Dominica. Might not be for every single spot, but there is some general cloud cover in the area, possibly with some rainfall as well. As we head to the Windward Islands, Martinique southward, sunny skies this morning, similar story for Barbados, going to Trinidad, Tobago, and also the ABC Islands. And by the way, I saw the comments from you guys saying that you got some rainfall last evening, and that is really wonderful to hear. So I'm happy that there was some rainfall, because it has been pretty dry in the area. Now as we look to Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, we also see that there is that cloud coverage for some spots, and going to Hispaniola, things clear up a lot more. We see that most of the island is likely experiencing some beautiful sunshine. Let's drift more over to the west, the Turks and Caicos Islands, Bahamas, Cuba, Jamaica, also in the clear. Cayman Islands, similar story. But as we head over to Central America, there is some thunderstorm activity for some spots, but overall there isn't anything too crazy happening across the basin. And so guys, now we want to go ahead and talk about that additional rainfall expected. So we're going to be looking at what Euro is anticipating through today. And so when this map is becoming more colorful, when we're seeing more of those shades of oranges, reds, that is where higher rainfall totals are expected. And this is as we're heading through most of today, going to late tonight. And so we can see that most of the rain rainfall is expected across some spots in Central America, also going to the Eastern Caribbean, possibly for some areas in Puerto Rico, Vieques, Culebra, also the Virgin Islands, the most easterly side of Hispaniola, and also across some spots in northern South America. And we also see some of those higher totals expected for Trinidad. So those are the areas expected to receive the most rainfall through today. And so this is a forecast, which means it doesn't necessarily have to be the actual outcome, but it seems pretty likely. Now for most other spots going to the Lesser Antilles, definitely some additional rainfall possible, but nothing too crazy. Again, we can see that most of that activity is going to be remaining to the west of the islands. ABC Islands today, you guys are likely to be in the clear for the most part. The Yucatan, also similar story for most of Jamaica, Cayman Islands, Cuba, and other parts of Hispaniola, Bahamas, Turks and Caicos Islands. So nothing too crazy is expected. Maybe some isolated thunderstorms or showers, especially as we head to this afternoon at the most. And so guys, now I want to go ahead and talk about the possibility of seeing development, and I want to take you to the updated Climate Prediction Center's Global Tropics Hazards Outlook map. And so we see that this is looking very colorful, and we're focusing on where we see week 2. Now that is for the week of the 19th to the 25th of July. So we're going to the latter part of July here, and we can see that we're focusing on the Atlantic Basin. We see that brown shade for some spots across Central America and the Caribbean. Most of the Caribbean islands going up to the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos Islands, and northern South America. Now this is indicating that there is likely going to be below average rainfall, a pretty good probability of below average rainfall, which means that things are expected to be on the drier side. So there's that Saharan dust out there coming in its plumes, helping to stabilize weather conditions. So it should help to inhibit any major rainfall activity from taking place. However, outside of the region, we see these different shades of red, that paler and that more vibrant shade, and also that little shade of green. What does that represent? Well, the shade of green represents the probability of above average rainfall. Meanwhile, the shades of red represents tropical cyclone formation probability. So we're seeing here that the tropical Atlantic is highlighted within this time frame, the week of the 19th to the 25th, that we could possibly see some development within this area. And so nothing is solid right now, and development will all be dependent on how favorable conditions are. So the main inhibiting factor out there is that dry air coming from the Saharan air layer. But as the weeks go by, as we approach especially next month, it is likely that we're going to be having these stronger tropical waves coming off Africa, and then in the presence of conditions conducive enough, when we can definitely see some development. And so as I said, nothing is solid, but models have been sniffing at it. As we look at the Euro ensemble members, each of these different lines and these L's, they represent individual members, and based on the color we know the intensity. So that darker shade of blue represents tropical storm force winds, and as we head to the shade of green, yellow, orange, etc., that is where we have a stronger system expected. So we can see that as we head to Saturday of next week, the members are definitely picking up on that system 94L actually becoming a tropical cyclone or subtropical cyclone out there. But as we look across the Atlantic, we're not seeing a whole bunch of members as what we saw yesterday, expecting that, hey, we're gonna be seeing something coming from the tropical Atlantic. And as we look at the GFS members now, we're seeing some more members hopping onto it, saying, yes, of course, we're gonna be seeing some development out there. So of course, I'll be keeping you guys posted. And I want to briefly mention that there is a tropical storm over in the Eastern Pacific, previously known 94E, has intensified into Tropical Storm Calvin and is expected to become a hurricane as we're going to be heading into Thursday. So it could become a hurricane over in the Pacific, but as we can see, nowhere is ahead of the system to be impacted, so it's not a threat to land. And that is pretty much it for this updates video, and I hope that you found it to be quite informative. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments. I will respond once I get the chance, and remember to always be weatherwise.